Welcome to episode 24 of the LAN Partners Podcast. I'm your host, Connor, and I got Matt.
Hello.
And, of course, Dave.
Heyo.
So in the spirit of Halloween this month, we are doing a special couple episodes coming up where we're going to have a couple features of either horror games or zombie games and have a little fun Halloweenish discussions for the month of October. So hope you be looking forward to that. You know, we want to mix it up a little bit. Everyone gets in the Halloween spirit. So this week we are going to do our Around the Horn segment where we all talk about the games we've been playing. There hasn't been much this time around. You know, we've all been pretty busy. We are reviewing as a group Walking Dead Seasons 1 and 2, the Telltale games. We're just going to bunch it into one. And our discussion for the day is zombie games moving forward. Like, where was the zombie genre? Where has it been? Where's it going? You know, how we feel about that. So we're going to be talking about that. A couple news stories. And our list for today is zombie games. Of course, in the spirit of Halloween.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. A little bit about us is that we are three gamers who have full-time jobs, families, and other hobbies. Our goal for this podcast is to give suggestions of games for people who don't have a whole lot of time to game, besides that precious hour or two that you have in a night, and we don't want you wasting that time on games that you don't even like. We talk about new and old games so you can find the best game that fits your style. Please download the podcast by Apple app, Stitcher, Google Play for you Android users, or just go on iTunes and hit subscribe. That way you get our weekly episodes uploaded to you every Thursday. If you have questions, discussion topics, or list ideas, please message us on Facebook, send an email, thelandpartners@gmail.com, or just leave a comment. Check out our LAN Partner Twitch page if you want to get our gameplay videos. We've been posting a lot of videos up there, and of course the games that we review, we have some footage of some of those games too. Before we jump into our Around the Horn segment, we got to give a Madden League update. Big developments in our Madden League. I will say where I'm at. Well, no, Dave, how about you go first? You go first.
Gee, I wonder if someone could have predicted the outcome of this Madden League, like in the second week of our season. I wonder who did that. Anyway, so we had the playoff start. I am the fearless commissioner of our Madden League, and it looked like I had a pretty easy-going trip to the conference finals. But I have two teams that are the bane of my existence, starting in Madden 17, and those two teams are the Seattle Seahawks and the Kansas City Chiefs. For some reason, I cannot beat these two teams. I still do not hold a win over them. I made it into the bye round of the playoffs after a last-minute victory over the Texans in the last game of our season to secure the bye week. And then I ended up playing the Chiefs, who wiped the floor with me. We're talking 2 forced fumbles. I threw an ill-advised pick. And then the last play of the game, linebacker Superman flew and knocked the ball down on what I thought was a surefire touchdown pass to tie the game up. So I am out of the playoffs, victim of the Kansas City Chiefs.
So the way my playoff route was going is my first round I got the first round bye. Then my divisional matchup was going to be against the Texans, or it was against the Texans last night. I played my game. And then if Dave won his game, I'd be having to face Dave in the conference finals. But Dave lost to the Chiefs, and I happened to win against the Texans last night in a 35-30 or 35-31. Pretty much a nail biter all the way through. Big plays here and there. A couple big picks by him, a couple big picks by me. It was back and forth, just tug of war, matched the whole game, but I managed to come out on top. So I am moving on to face the Chiefs in the conference finals. That's a computer. The Texans was obviously a human control team. Chiefs are a computer control team, but then we do have a human control team in the NFC still with the Rams, which is Mike. So hopefully, if I could get past the Chiefs, I'll be matching up with him in the Super Bowl. So we'll
only one user team in the NFC made the playoffs.
It was only one, really?
Yeah, one user team, just Mike.
Wow, that's crazy. So
the Panthers had they ended the season 13-3, and so did the Falcons, same division. So that was tough to overcome.
And the winner of the NFC North was, would you say, 7-9?
Yeah, so it's him against the Panthers. You against the Chiefs, him against the Panthers. So the winner of those two games will square off in the Super Bowl, which could be the most anticlimactic Super Bowl of all time. Two computer teams facing each other, but I will still stream it for our viewing pleasure, should that happen. So
That'd be pretty funny.
Nice.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into our Around the Horn. Matt, how about you start us off and tell us a little bit about what the games that you've been playing since the last check-in?
Sure. So I have not been playing a whole lot, but I haven't had as much time. But what I have been playing is I actually I picked up Golf Story for the Nintendo Switch on the eShop, and that game is really awesome. I don't think it's definitely an indie game. It's a fly under the radar type game, but it is making a lot of noise in the gaming community. A lot of people have been giving it high praises, and I agree with them. The game is really fun. Anyone that has a Switch and is interested in golf, it's not a realistic. I mean, it is like the physics and everything are realistic, but it's not. You're not playing as pros or anything. You're just as this character that the game lets you kind of sort of create. You just get to pick like your hair color and stuff. But
and it has like a 16-bit look to it. It almost looks like
Right.
Earthbound or something like that.
It's a top-down view when you play, but it's a lot of fun. I love the game. It has a really cool, like long, lengthy story mode because the game's called Golf Story. So it's really fun. And then the other thing is I was a lucky person and I was able to head over to Walmart and pick myself up a Super NES Classic. And I've been playing pretty much since I got it. I've just been playing Mario RPG, which I never got to play. I never had a SNES when I was growing up or anything. So this is it's like a whole new thing to me. So I've been playing that game because that's something I've always wanted to touch on. And I'm about an hour and a half in, which is pretty good. And yeah, I think I'm going to try to put my time towards that, and then I'll probably move on to Zelda: Link to the Past after that.
Nice. Yeah, so along with Matt, I am the proud parent of a SNES Classic now. Tony texted us Saturday morning saying he got one at Target, and so he actually did. It just seemed too good to be true, but yes, we are two-thirds of the LAN Partners Podcast are now SNES Classic owners and NES Classic owners.
Yes.
So it's pretty sweet. I have been playing the SNES Classic as well. The first night I got it, I just jumped around between like 5 or 7 games. I played Super Mario Kart with my wife. We played Kirby Course or something. It was like some golf Kirby game on the SNES Classic. It was actually kind of fun. We played a couple other games, but mainly right now I'm committing to Super Metroid on SNES Classic. I'm really digging that game. It's a lot of fun, so I'll be playing that one all the way through. That'll be my main game. But other than that, outside of that, obviously Madden, BioShock Infinite, I finally started. I got to that. This game is awesome. It is infinitely better than BioShock 2. I'm so glad that I didn't stop at BioShock 2 and say I'm done with the BioShock series because I did not like BioShock 2, but BioShock Infinite is so good. It's got so much different elements. It just feels so different and new and refreshing, and I'm really into it right now. I'm pretty far into it. I try not to. I look at walkthroughs, but not to figure it out, but just to kind of see where I'm at in the story. Like I'll just look at how they break it up into sections, and I'm probably about 75% of the way through. I'm really looking forward to the end of that game. The game's really good. I'm really excited about that. And I'm also playing still. This is The Police. I talked about this last time. It's just like a sim cop game where you're basically a cop chief and you're sending your policemen out on orders and dealing with crime. And then there's this whole other undertow of mafia and just kind of dirty back alley kind of stuff going on. So it's pretty fun, but I'm definitely shifting gears towards other things right now with the SNES Classic and just really into BioShock Infinite right now. Dave, how about you?
Yeah, my week's been kind of weird. I haven't really had a whole ton of time to play. I played about 90 minutes randomly of Call of Duty Remastered, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, and that was pretty fun. I'm like a level 36 in that, no prestiging, just level 36. And then about an hour of The Witcher 3. I'm pretty close to finishing that one, and technically I played it for an hour and a half, but I was victim of the console save file glitch, and so my 30 minutes of that hour and a half didn't even count, so I only progressed about an hour of Witcher 3. And then my 2 Madden games, and about a half hour of Puyo Puyo Tetris with the wife, and that's about it.
Tell me about that save file glitch. What you talked about it before?
Dude, it's the worst. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's terrible.
you have no idea it's happening. That's the worst part about it. If you don't check and try to save your game during the game, you have no clue it's happening. Because normally, The Witcher 3 saves your progress automatically in the background once in a while. It has auto saves as well as your personal save that you go in and do yourself manually. And with the glitch effects, is normally you see like a little save icon when it's doing an auto save, but it happens so quickly you have no idea that it even happens, so you don't even pay attention to it. And if you get like super caught up in the story and you don't manually save by yourself, then you can go for an hour without saving it, go to save the game, and it'll say, cannot save the game at this time. And you're like, oh, well, I must be in the middle of like a story event. Like, I'm just going to go through it. No, if you ever get that message that says, cannot save at this time, and you're not in the middle of a cutscene, you got the glitch. And the only way to fix the glitch is to turn your Xbox off completely. Otherwise, if you just quit out of Witcher 3, it won't even load back up. So the only way to fix this glitch, I'm not kidding you, is to shut down your Xbox, like, completely. Go into settings and click restart, or unplug the thing from the back. No joke. It's the worst glitch. But it's only happened, like, 3 times to me in my, like, 70-plus hours. So
How has that not been patched?
I know.
Dude,
It's such an amazing
know.
game. Like, you would
It's
think
like it's like a damper on, like, literally one of the best games ever created, period. And to have that glitch happen in that game being as frustrating as it was the first time, I lost 2 hours of progress because I was just cruising and not thinking about saving. Really heavy storyline segment, and I lost 2 hours of gameplay. And I took a break for like a week from that game.
Yeah, that would have been it for me.
After that, I was really upset, and then came back to it and was like, all right, this game's awesome. I forgive you, Witcher.
That's crazy. Yeah, one more thing I want to say about the SNES Classic is I said this a couple episodes ago when I busted out my Super Nintendo because I still own mine, and I own I put a picture on our Facebook page and our Twitter page. I think it was like 6 or 7 of the games that are in the Classic, so I own those. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I won't get the Classic. Like, I kind of already own some games. I'm like, there's no other games that I really want to play, so I busted out my Super Nintendo, and it doesn't even work anymore. I was getting all these crazy little things going on, so I'm like, I need an SNES Classic now. I got to get one. So I'm really happy that Tony was able to find one. I'm glad Matt was able to find one. And then I was getting a lot of people texting me on Saturday saying, like, hey, they're at Target. Maybe you should go check it out. I'm like, no need. Got one. So I'm really excited. Moving on to our review for the day, we're going to double up on Walking Dead Season 1 and 2. Like I said, with the spirit of Halloween among us. It's October. Let's talk about some zombie games. Matt, tell us a little bit about Walking Dead.
All right. So The Walking Dead is officially called The Walking Dead The Game in Season 1. So what it is it's developed and published by Telltale Games. It is based on the Walking Dead comic book series. It is described as an episodic interactive drama, graphic adventure, survival horror video game.
Wow.
That's the official description. Basically what that means is it's pretty much like an interactive cinematic game where you usually don't have much control over your character. It's usually just conversations, and you get to choose what you say and what you do and what you say. The decisions you make has consequences that will pop up throughout the game and in the series, which they do really well. So that's definitely what I think entices people the most, because you can replay it, and you also get the little stats that show you what other people chose in certain moments. So that's really cool. The first Season 1 was released it was five episodes, and they were released not all at the same time. They were in waves. So they were released. The first one was released in April, and then the last one came out in November, and that was in 2012. And it is literally on like every single platform you can possibly think of, considering like even Kindle Fire, Mac
Kindle
OS,
Fire?
Microsoft. Yeah, like it's everywhere. You can get it everywhere. So that's Season 1. And then just to jump to Season 2 it's still developed and published by the same Telltale Games. Same situation with the 5 episodes. And these were released between December of 2013 and this one took a little bit longer. The last one finally came out in August of 2014. But it's the same style, season 1 and season 2. And if you've ever played a Telltale game of any type of game, they have like Borderlands, Game of Thrones. They have these different series that they do. It's always the same style of gameplay where you're kind of going through scenes and choosing what you want to say, and then you get a little time to walk around and kind of explore the environment. But that's about it. But yeah, that's a little bit about Walking Dead.
So one thing that I really liked about Walking Dead season. Let's talk about season 1, and then we'll jump into season 2. So for season 1, obviously, I think you guys would agree with me. The story was clearly the strong point, which it should in a Telltale game. But
Right.
I really love the story. Dave, what are some things that you liked about this game?
Well, my notes are kind of on both, but I took like 1 or 2 notes just like on the differences, what I liked better about each one. And my main difference is I do really truly prefer to play as the character in the first game, Lee. I prefer to play him over Clementine. So, yeah, I mean, if I could have had, I would have. I really enjoyed playing as Lee. I have nothing against female lead characters. Some of my favorite lead game characters are female, but like for some reason it just has never recaptured me like season 1 with Lee and in his story and his background, and maybe the fact that you're kind of like dealing as like an interim like father, and it makes you feel differently than like a prepubescent girl. Like I don't know, I don't really know what to say. I just that was my strong point for number 1. I don't know if you guys agree to that or.
I completely agree with you. And here, before we talk too much about Clementine being a lead character, but for Lee being the lead character on season 1, you're just Lee in the beginning. Like you're just this guy who's in the back of a cop car, and the whole world starts changing, and you go through this process with Lee. That's who you're experiencing this with. You're finding Clementine, you're finding all these other survivors, and building this group as Lee. So I think that's where the connection comes with his character, is that you're going through this whole change with this guy, whereas Clementine in season 2, everything's already happened. You're kind of just jumping into the middle of a situation with this, and you already have a group established, so you're not really like building that solo relationship with Clementine.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And
I think. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Yeah, I think with Lee, like you were saying, you get this like the birth of the story, started with him, and he was just this like random average Joe, and he got thrown into this world just like everyone else. But now you're following his events and how he's taking care of things. And I like Dave said, there's nothing wrong with Clementine. She's a great character. I think I enjoyed playing with Clementine in season 2, maybe more than you guys did. But yeah, I think there was just something about Lee that was maybe for us as males, and I know, Dave has a kid now, and, we're all married. I think we were able to sort of kind of relate to that a little bit, kind of that his instincts and what he was, his viewpoint on things and what he was trying to do in the story. And I think the whole time we were wondering, like what's going to happen. Obviously, there's going to be some sort of dramatic peak to this, these relationships that they've built. So I think, with Lee, just having him as the starter, it's kind of like when you make a sequel to a great movie, like it's always never going to really be as good as the first one, that kind of thing. But in terms of the story here,
I think too, there's a large parallel between Last of Us and The Walking Dead, where you play as this lead male character, and you take in this girl. She needs your help, and you're not related to her anyway.
Right.
But you start to look
You're
at
like
this
the
girl
protector.
as your daughter, and I'm gonna do every choice that I have to make in the rest of this game to protect that girl. I'm gonna make that choice, whatever cost, whoever I have to kill, whatever I have to do. That's what I'm doing to protect this girl. And I think that's what season 1 did a lot better than season 2, was putting you in that situation where you're the protector of this little girl, and you got to do whatever you got to do. I want to kind of just combine season 1 and season 2. Oh, before we do that, I have one more big pro with season 1, is that early on, they already jump you into huge choices that you have to make. Like going into that, I think this was the first Telltale game I ever played, so I really didn't know what to expect. But right up from the get-go, they're having you make huge decisions. We're like, whoa. Like I have to, the timer's ticking, and you're like,
You have like
what
10
do I do?
seconds,
Like, who am I going to kill? Like the TV reporter of this guy, like who am I going to kill? And then, those huge decisions really early on, which I thought, I didn't think Season 2 had that as many huge impact moments like that as Season 1 did, but I just thought they did a really good job. So I want to bunch Season 1 to Season 2 because I have a direct comparison I want to make, and this kind of goes with a pro of Season 2 and a con of Season 1. And what I mean is, in Season 1, there is way too much downtime. And I know you guys didn't feel the same way about it as I did. When you're this character, Lee, you're seriously, they put you in this like room, like this just new area, and you have to just go around and explore and try to find certain items. And then if you don't get the right item, like Lee will be like, man, I really need to find this hammer. And then like you try to go do something else. He's like, maybe I should get a hammer. So I need a hammer. Like, where's this stupid hammer?
Like, thank you.
Yeah. And then like you pick up like a radio. This definitely is not a hammer.
Yeah, doesn't look like a hammer to me.
That drove me crazy. That's the amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, how much time do you think in between like episodes? You know how every new episode puts you in a new area. How much time do you think was spent just sitting around? Like 30 minutes?
Probably, and each episode only takes like 2 hours.
Yeah, not
so
even.
it's like a good chunk.
It was a good chunk of it where you're just kind of walking around, interacting with pointless things, not really doing anything, and it drove me crazy. And Season 2 has none of that. Let's go, let's get the show on the road, and I thought Season 2 did a much better job. What do you guys think about my point there?
I think Season 2 learned a little bit of that lesson. Because like you said, that was my first Telltale game, was Season 1 of Walking Dead, and I think that was really cool with what they did, making those decisions really quick and giving you that timer, and you're like that's what you wanted, you wanted more of those types of moments. And then I think Season 1 they just kind of, they had their vision of, and the thing too with excuse me, when you're exploring, it's like you have to walk really slowly around the areas, and it's just kind of, it's just really down. It feels kind of boring. And then it's like really simplistic, like you said, where he just keeps reminding you that he needs some sort of item, and
a hammer.
You're like, okay, let's go find this hammer so he can like magically rip this door open or something, to progress the story. But yeah, Season 2, I think they still had those moments, but it was more action packed. So it felt more like you had to get something done quickly instead of really just like wasting your time kind of walking around slowly. So yeah, I think Season 2 really learned from that.
Dave, what do you think?
I'm going to go ahead and disagree. I think that although, I mean, you could look at Season 2 and you can say like, okay, change of pace. Like nobody likes having the same game twice. So first of all, I appreciate both games. I appreciate that Season 2 had less of what you're calling downtime. However, I'm going to go back to that first point you made about you are experiencing this changing world with Lee. And I think that there was no better way to do that than to truly have you go mull through these environments. And what you didn't mention is, as you're trying to find that hammer, you uncover so many things. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but you can open a desk drawer, or you can open a cabinet, and you'll find something that just makes you go, wow. Either a piece of a story that of people who've been there before you, or this apocalypse is so fresh at the time that you take control of Lee that you hear things and you see things that just are gut wrenching, and even the smallest little items that you pick up and look at. Some of them, yes, they are useless. Like, oh, this is a pencil. This is hammer. Like, okay, like I get it.
He seriously says stuff like that too.
But at the same time, without giving any spoilers away, I'm sure you guys can think of a time where you opened something or looked at something and it completely took you by surprise. And that's what I really appreciated about the first game, is looking for that hammer made me feel more a part of the world. Like there was an actual store that I had to rummage through, or an actual closet I had to rummage through. Season 2 felt more like an action movie. I might as well have been Bruce Willis in a Clementine body, because it was like nonstop, wall to wall. Like I couldn't even tell you what some of the environments looked like, because you're in and out. Like Connor's correct. You are just moving and moving and moving. I appreciate that about Season 1. So I agree, but I also disagree.
Yeah, you nailed it. You brought up some good points about the flow of the game. It was pretty important being in the shoes of Lee to do that kind of stuff. So good points there. I'll take that. Do you guys have anything to add before we move on to our overall ratings?
Can I do my biggest con of all time?
Yeah, go for it.
This would have been the perfect game to have a cloud-based save system because it's on every platform you can even imagine. And like, I don't want to cry in public, but if I want to play a little bit of my game on my iPhone, like sitting and waiting for an appointment, a doctor's appointment or something, why shouldn't I be able to? Like, it seems easy enough where the save file has to be very, very tiny. I would have liked to be able to pick up on my iPhone, come home, play a little bit on my TV, sit down. I had it on my Vita back when I had a Vita, maybe play a little bit on the Vita up in the bedroom, throw the game on Switch, give me some, like, I would have liked to just play it anywhere. This was a perfect game to be able to do that.
Didn't you play Season 1 on your Vita and your phone?
I played through the first episode was actually free on the iPhone.
Oh,
so I played the game. That's how I actually found out about the game is it was free. And I said, oh, Walking Dead, I got to play this. And then I played the first episode and said, oh, I need the entire thing. I need it right now. And so I saw that it was on Vita and I thought to myself, like, I hate my Vita. Otherwise, I have no reason to use it. Might as well get this game for it. But then I played it again on Xbox One, like the entire thing all the way through.
Okay, so before we give our overalls, just so our listeners know, both seasons are $20 at GameStop for PS4 or Xbox One. I'm sure you could get them cheaper than $20.
Yeah.
I bought them for $20 like 2 years ago. I think I played these games, not sure. But I bought them for $20, and you could probably get these way cheaper than that. My overall for Season 1 is an 8 out of 10, a great out of 10. It's a pretty great game. And then Season 2, I upped it and went to a 9. I thought the action-packed really benefited me more. I liked the action-packed, and like Dave was saying, it's boom, boom, boom. I really like that. I gave it a 9. Dave, what was your overalls?
Speaking of overalls, Mario Odyssey is coming out soon. Just a little plug there. I gave it 8s across the board. I liked first season for the reasons that you hated it, and I liked the second season for the reason you loved it. Like 8s across the board. Potential to be 9s, but I don't know. There's just something. There's something. It was missing something, and I can't even tell you what that something is. But like purely for the story, wow.
Yeah, Matt, what about you?
Season 1, I gave a 7.5. I thought it was really good. Didn't bump it up to a great for me. I think those downtime moments that you were talking about, Connor, maybe hit me a little harder than it did for you guys. And then Season 2, I went a full point up to an 8.5. I thought the faster pace suited me well, and I actually liked playing as Clementine. Like I said, I think a little bit more than you guys did. I liked seeing her kind of grow as a character, so that bumped me up a full point to 8.5.
Sweet. So keeping with the zombie theme, let's go ahead and shift into our discussion about zombie games and where it's been, where's it going, like how do we feel about this zombie genre? I want to start us off by kind of talking about down back in history with the zombie games. So I'm gonna drop some history on you with zombies. So what I think about the zombie genre of video games is I think it was heavily influenced by the late 70s, 80s, just huge zombie movie increase. And I don't know if you guys are big zombie movie followers, Dave. I think you're pretty into zombie movies. I'm not too sure.
I'm very much so, yeah.
Yeah, so
I've seen every movie on my list except for one.
So you know what I'm talking about the 80s zombie movies. And just to name a few, and just kind of going through the line here, Dawn of the Dead, 1978. That is a huge zombie movie. Return of the Living Dead, 1985. Day of the Dead, 1985. Evil Dead 2, 1987. Mm-hmm. Just a whole plethora of all these zombie movies in the late 70s to 80s where once the video games caught up, they're like, wow, we have to jump on this zombie craze. And then you get games like Zombies Ate My Neighbors in 1993. House of the Dead on 1996 from the Sega arcade game, House of the Dead. And then you got Resident Evil in 1996. Like, these games were influenced heavily from these 80s zombie movies. And even in one of the zombie movies, I can't remember, I always get the Dawn and the Return and all in the day. Always get all those movies confused. But one of them set in a mall.
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead. Okay, I always want to say Day of the Dead. But yeah, Dawn of the Dead is set in a mall. Zombies Ate My Neighbors set in a mall or a shopping place and, around a neighborhood. And you go through malls and stuff like that. Like, you could tell.
Dead Rising.
Yeah, Dead Rising.
Dead Rising is literally in a mall.
These games,
Dawn of the Dead.
These games are taking directly from these 80s zombie movies and creating now video games. Because before, when all these movies were being made, the Nintendo Entertainment System and Atari and systems like that, like, I don't think, the gaming was so new, so it's not like they were branching into all these new genres right away. And then B, like, I don't know how much those consoles could handle when it comes to trying to create all these different character models and stuff like that.
Right.
So I don't know if they were really trying to push it for zombies, but once the Super Nintendo came out and Sega, they're like, PlayStation, like, here we go. Like, let's get these zombie games. People are asking for zombies. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Matt, where do you stand with zombie games?
I love zombie games. I think when they're done right, I think we've all ventured into zombie games that just didn't pan out for us. Like I mentioned, Dead Rising. The concept of the game was super amazing, where you're trapped in this mall and there's literally thousands of zombies on screen at once, showing off the 360's power. That was kind of one of those games. But when I actually played it, I just couldn't really get into it. But then there's other zombie games, like Resident Evil, which goes for more of a horror, like a shock value, survival type situation, where those games I think grasp me more than like a lighthearted, joking around kind of zombie game. I don't get into that as much. I like it when it's more realistic. So I feel like you were saying, like the 80s movies, 70s and 80s movies really influenced the 90s games. And I think, like you said, there was a huge influx of zombie games then. And Resident Evil, that, is a huge franchise for zombies. And I think they kind of fell off a little bit. They lost their credibility a little bit because they started kind of moving their stuff in a different direction that people weren't liking. It was going away from that survival horror and more kind of action-y style of gameplay. And, then Resident Evil 4 came out in 2005. And I think that was a huge, really meaningful game for that genre at that time, because I think no one really expected it to be what it was. And then I'm sure, as you guys will get into, just getting into throughout the 2000s, there was just a massive influx of zombie games, and I think it's still continuing to this day. But another point, I read an article from Game Informer, and they had an interesting take on zombie games in terms of kind of a business standpoint, where they mentioned that it's a lot easier for developers to create these games because they're not having to focus on creating a human AI, which is a lot more complex, obviously, than just having kind of a walking dumb zombie or even a fast one. But it's easier for them to create those types of games. And then as a player, I think kind of subconsciously we find it more enjoyable or easier to stomach that we're genociding like a bunch of zombies instead of humans, and it's more fun because we don't feel like there's any guilt or like penalty for that, because we're like, they're already dead. There's no like emotion behind that. So I think that makes it more fun for us and easier to play. So that was an interesting article that they had about kind of the standpoint of like, yeah, I'll go kill 1,000 zombies, but then if you were in a mall killing 1,000 people, humans, it's a little bit of a different story. I don't think you could just sit there and play that all day. So it's a very interesting topic. I don't think zombie games are going anywhere.
They made that game and it got destroyed critically.
Yeah.
I forget what that game was called. I'm not even going to give it airtime, but they made a game where you essentially are a psychopath and you just go crazy killing like innocent people, and it did not get good critical reception.
Was it Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2?
No, it was not. It was not Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
When it was like, do you accept
let's talk about that mission another time.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, like I said, zombie games are not going anywhere. They're going to continue. I think there's still a lot they can do with it. I think there is a lot of space for creativeness. I think it's easy to place it for a good game that anyone can really get into. Even though it's really violent, but at the same time, it's kind of like arcadey at the same time. So yeah, I think there's still a future for it, and we'll see what keeps coming out.
Okay, Dave, what do you think?
I'm gonna hit a lot of talking points right now as fast as I can. First of all, George Romero, is the godfather of zombies, and he's made half of the movies that you credited to like the 70s and 80s. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead's remake in 2004, which is my favorite zombie movie of all time. Land of the Dead. The dude basically created zombies. In this first movie, Night of the Living Dead, he didn't actually have the characters use the word zombie at all. Fun fact, he called them ghouls. And so really, really interesting. That one's a black and white one. There's a little bit of racial politics going on in that movie as well. Very well written movie. Newer adaptations like 28 Days Later.
Hold on, wait, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
You said they called them ghouls. Is that how Ghouls and Goblins was coined?
I'm
I don't know.
going to go ahead and say it probably came from Romero. I mean, we're talking about 1968, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that anyone who used the term ghouls or to refer to a zombie-like creature probably came from Romero in his influence, because that was a very big movie at the time and very different than what people were used to seeing. Like I said, 28 Days Later, I haven't seen that movie. That's the only one on my list I haven't seen. But the Resident Evil films were also in 2002. You had the Walking Dead comic come out in 2003, the TV show in 2010, still running today, still one of the most watched, it might even be the most viewed TV show on cable television. Resident Evil in the 1996 through now. Resident Evil 7 just came out. Call of Duty Nazi Zombies and Left 4 Dead, both in 2008. So, I mean, zombie games are still going strong. Even today, we're still waiting on State of Decay 2 to come out. We're still waiting for DayZ to make its console release. And on that note, Bohemia Interactive last year, because I'm kind of losing faith that DayZ is ever going to come out on Xbox, even though they announced it at E3. And Bohemia made an interesting comment last year that said, hey, and I quote, relax, it's coming. And then they went on to note that it's expected to launch after the final PC version is released. And of course, we know all the memes that, imply that DayZ is never going to be in its final version. They might be right. So here's the bottom line. When we originally talked about this topic, we said, are we tired of zombie games? Frankly, no. I find a lot of value in zombie games. I think that each take on a zombie game has something new and inventive and creative that makes me go, oh man, that's a cool take on zombies. Like I want to be into that. Yeah, we owe zombies essentially to George Romero, and he's kind of the guy that everyone models the slow moving, methodical zombie off of. But, games like Left 4 Dead with the running zombies, I Am Legend with those weird vampire zombie mixes, another movie that was a big one. I mean, zombies, there's just so many things you can do with them. And like Matt said, you're not killing people. You're killing something that's already dead that should be dead. It's like you're doing good by using weapons, which doesn't normally happen in video games. Let's be honest. So, no matter what political viewpoint you have, no matter what, whatever it is, nobody, is saying, hey, don't kill these undead creatures. It's just a really cool genre. I'm really excited to see more stuff come out of it, to be honest.
Dave, there's a couple things you said that I really want to have just a quick talk about. When you mentioned Nazi zombies, and I think you highlighted over that way too quickly, because we got to talk about that, because I have a second theory. My initial theory is that the 80s zombies movies influenced the 90s zombie games. I think Nazi zombies single-handedly propelled the zombie gaming genre ahead. And here's why I think that. If you look at zombie games released in the early 2000s to when Nazi zombies came out, there was Dead Rising, there was Resident Evil. That's really about it. Maybe a couple other games here or there, but nothing much, right? Can you guys think of anything besides those two games that were important in the zombie genre? Probably not. Nothing that comes to mind. Well, here's what happened. Nazi Zombies came out in 2008. Right then, and plus Left 4 Dead was also 2008, so we'll call it Left 4 Dead also. Left 4 Dead and Nazi Zombies came out in 2008. Left 4 Dead 2 the next year. Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare, the DLC, was a zombie DLC. The Zombie U for Wii U, they came out with some zombie game in 2012. Dead Island, 2011. State of Decay, 2013. Like, just a whole list of games that just, okay, now that, wow, look how popular zombies are now. And then, like Dave said, the Walking Dead TV show came out in 2010. So that was another huge zombie craze that happened. So now everyone's jumping on these zombie games. And I think Nazi zombies had a huge influence on all of this, along with Walking Dead and the other things we talked about. But I stand by Nazi zombies being a huge influence.
I think because Call of Duty is such a huge fan base,
Right.
and then when they throw that in their game, you have millions of people trying this new mode out.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's interesting because you mentioned like Left 4 Dead, and I had mentioned Left 4 Dead as well, and we talked about how, I mean, look at those two completely different type of zombies. You've got World at War's zombies who are slow moving; those are the classic George Romero zombies, and then you've got the I Am Legend, fast running World War Z, Left 4 Dead type zombies, and both of them ridiculously fun to put bullets in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think you nailed it. I think 2008 we could call that like the renaissance of zombie games, because those I agree 100,000% that Nazi Zombies and Left 4 Dead, the tandem release of those two games, both in November, I'm pretty sure. I mean, that was it. That's the end of 2008, beginning of 2009, and you listed the games that came out after it, and I think that people were just like, okay, it's done. Like this is a genre. This is a full-fledged like horror zombies is now a genre, and Plants vs Zombies aside, I think it's a good.
It used to be like some of the like Resident Evil was more of like a horror type of game, where it wasn't just like a zombie game, but now Dead Island, State of Decay, Walking Dead,
Right.
season 1 and
Dying
2, like
Light.
we talked about, Dying Light.
Dying
Those are
Light,
literally just zombie survival.
Yeah.
Full-fledged games. That's
You're in
all they
a
are.
city.
Yeah. That's all it is. So, like Dave said, they're just creating this whole new genre of zombies, and I'm pretty excited. I just hope that, like Matt was saying before, that there's a lot of room still for it. I just hope they don't get too repetitive or too copycat off of that.
I think Dave kind of sparked some innovation of an idea for myself where he was saying how there's no one really out there saying like don't kill zombies, so that maybe that would be a cool direction to take a game in where you play as like a perspective of a semi-intelligent zombie or something, where it's like save the zombies, where the tables have turned kind of.
I think there's like a corny like sitcom on TV called like iZombie or something like that, where the chick's like a zombie has feelings or something. I don't know.
Well, there's the
look at how I pretend not to know about it, even though I
there's just
that show featuring.
That was episode 3 of season 2.
Minute 37 was pretty compelling. Not that I kept track. But.
And there's that one movie, Warm Bodies, where there's zombies and they have feelings and everything.
Feelings, right?
Yeah, so that's a different angle that games can go with. So that's pretty exciting. One news story for today. Matt, how about you tell us a little bit about what happened with Visceral Studios?
Sure. So Visceral Studios was kind of a sub studio within EA. EA announced, I believe today or yesterday, that they are shutting down Visceral Games, which was the name of that studio. That studio was the studio behind Battlefield Hardline and the acclaimed series Dead Space. They were also in the midst currently of working on a Star Wars game. It was in development, and EA has stated that they will be moving that game to a different studio, and they will be completely changing it. It will become a completely different game. They're not going to continue on the same plans that Visceral Studio had been working on. So I think some of the questions I've seen people ask is who's going to have like the rights to Dead Space now, because Visceral Studios did have rights, even though the game was being published through EA, but they were the developer of the game. So that's something interesting to look at. And it sounds like from the employees that were working under Visceral Studios, EA is trying to take care of them. They're trying to kind of disperse them into different studios so that everyone can hopefully keep their jobs. And then, the studio is going down slowly. They're going to slowly start kind of weaning it down and sending everyone off to different studios to work on different projects.
Interesting. How many Dead Spaces did they make? 2 or 3?
There's 3.
There are 3 Dead Spaces. I have not played any of the Dead Space games, so I haven't tried it, so I can't say I'm not into it, but that didn't ever pull me in.
And 1 and 2 were really good. I think 3 got a little like more actiony, but I don't know. I guess it depends on the player.
I think I played a demo of number 1. And I was just like, yeah, it seems interesting, but it didn't like, I was looking for a zombie game, I'm pretty sure at the time, and I was like, it's not really zombies,
like Aliens kind of.
Yeah, it's more like Aliens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and close down episode 24 of the LAN Partners Podcast with our top 3 zombie games list. I'm pretty excited for this one. I will lead us off with my number 3 zombie game. It was, honestly, after doing all this, looking at all these zombie games, and it's kind of hard to narrow down to 3 because there were so many great zombie games and, cherished memories of playing zombie games. So my number 3 is Undead Nightmare, the DLC for Red Dead Redemption. I think that that DLC was way more than just DLC. That was a whole new game. I was expecting it to be like a Nazi zombies type of thing where I'm just kind of playing little modes, but it was a full-fledged story in Red Dead Redemption, a zombie story, and it was really good. I really liked it. I hope Red Dead 2 has some sort of Undead Nightmare 2. I would think that would be very poor on their part not to have some sort of DLC like they did for the first one like that down the line, but we'll worry about that once Red Dead 2 comes out. So that's my number 3. Matt, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is The Last of Us. The game itself is amazing. In terms of zombies, though, I had to keep it on the bottom of my list.
Yeah, okay. Dave?
The bottom of your top 3 of all time list, which is not too bad. A quick question before we move on here. In general, each of you guys, starting with you, Connor, are you a slow-moving zombies guy or a fast-moving zombies guy?
I don't know, man. It really just depends, I guess.
Matt, do you have a preference?
I think it's a little scarier for a slow moving. I think when it gets fast, games usually provide you with like stronger weapons or like auto rifles and stuff. So I like when it's slow and you have like a pistol and you're running out of ammo and the guy just keeps like slowly charging at you.
I like the balance. I like the balance of like Left 4 Dead, how the normal zombies kind of move really fast, but then you got some slow ones, and then you got the special infected. I like that balance of slow and fast. I think, what game was it? There's some game where it's just all of them are moving 1,000 miles an hour.
Besides Left 4 Dead?
maybe it was Resistance I'm thinking of. I think in Resistance they have really fast moving enemies. I don't know. So Dave, what was your number 3?
So my number 3, and I have a tie for number 3 because I absolutely could not pick between these two games. Project Zomboid on PC is probably the most like true to George Romero slow moving zombies survival horror game I've ever played in my life. It's fantastic. So if you haven't played Project Zomboid, check out a YouTube video, do something. It's a fantastic game. The rest of my games, everyone's heard of. And the game that I have tied with that game is Left 4 Dead 2. And there's not a lot to say except for anyone who's played that game has a memorable moment where him and his friends are trying to get on that helicopter, and it's between saving your friend and getting on that helicopter, and all of us have made that decision to be like, see ya, and just jumped on and watched the tank just destroy our friend. So what a game.
Yeah, I messed up. I don't know. How did I not get Left 4 Dead on my list? It was so difficult. I'm like sitting there. I'm like, Left 4 Dead.
Do we need a new host?
I think we need a new host. This is going to be the last straw. All right, continue.
My number 2 is The Last of Us. I think that is obviously one of the greatest zombie games ever made.
Yeah.
No surprise there. Matt, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is Left 4 Dead 2.
All right.
Just like Dave said.
That's Dave's.
Too many memories to not keep that on the list.
I know. You're not wrong. Dave, what about you?
My number 2 is a game that I've played a million times more than you guys. Still waiting on that console release. Come on, Bohemia, where you at? Daisy.
Daisy.
My number 1 zombie game of all time is Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I think this.
Oh, I knew it.
This game just set the foundation for zombie games, man, and it was a great game overall. It's a Super Nintendo just gem of a game. Not on the Classic though, but still a gem. Matt, I think you're next. What is your number 1 zombie game? Hold on, before you give your number 1, you said Left 4 Dead, you said Last of Us. I have absolutely no guess of what your number 1 zombie game is.
Okay. I already mentioned it on the podcast today.
Gears of War 3. Matt,
it's going to be Resident. No. Connor, think for a second. It's going to be Resident Evil 4. That's his favorite zombie.
Yeah. Matt, what is your number 1?
Dave's right. Resident Evil 4. That game came out I got it on the original system, which was GameCube. This game was released on GameCube. I can't remember the last time Nintendo
Great
got
game.
behind something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that game just tore me up. That was amazing.
Nice. Dave, what about you?
My number one is not just the best zombie game on my list, but it might be one of the best games ever created. And you guys had it on your list. It's The Last of Us. So
Yeah.
if you haven't played that game, the dichotomy of, that fatherhood figure and the daughter, that's the winning formula. So
Yeah.
go play it. Go play
Yeah.
it. What are you doing?
Go play.
Turn
What are you
off the
doing?
podcast. Go buy The Last of Us. Play it right now.
Yeah, must play for any
absolutely.
gamer. If you don't own a Sony platform, get one so you can play this
Yep.
game. So
Really,
that-
truly.
That was episode 24. Tell somebody about us. Thank you so much for listening. Listen to us while you're on your way to work, while you're at work, while you're cleaning up the house on Saturdays. Turn on the LAN Partners. Tell us what you think. Tell your friends to listen to us while they're cleaning up the house, mowing the lawn, shoveling the driveway with winter coming, raking up some leaves. If you have some input, if there's some zombie game, or some point that we missed out on, let us know. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear from the listeners. If you're curious to see what happens in our Madden League and you can't wait till next week, message us and we'll let you know. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week.